They say, my neck of the woods, my backyard, from the region I'm from, she is someone that for years has brought a sense of peace and hope and the power of womankind into circles. Please give it up for STARHAWK here today with us.
I know I can't be alone here in feeling this is coming back to home territory. I remember Hands Around the Lab 20 years ago when I was in jail from blockading here at this lab, and I wonder how many of you out there have also been arrested or blockaded or done civil disobedience here at these labs sometime. Yeah. It seems like it would be nice, having done that 20 years ago. On the one hand, I wish that if I had known I'd still be back here 20 years later, it might have been a little discouraging. But I also remember that 20 years ago, one of the things we were saying was that if we were still alive 10 years down the road, we would have done our work. And we are. We're still here. Some of us are a bit older and grayer, but we're still alive, and the earth is still alive, and there still is hope. And in fact, I think there's more hope now almost than ever before on the planet, because as deeply grim and bad as things are, I also see such tremendous forces of hope and resistance and creativity awakening up. And I think it's an absolutely incredible moment to be alive in history right now. You know, it's like the climax of the drama. Yeah. And I wouldn't want to have missed it for the world. Because right now we're at a point where we as a species, as a people, as a global culture, have to make a choice about what kind of future we want to live in. We have enormous forces pushing us toward one vision of the future. A vision in which nobody will actually eat anything that's grown anywhere near where they live, where every human resource and every natural resource will be up for exploitation, where every human service that people have done for each other will become an arena of exploitation. And that's the vision of the system that it's called corporate globalization or global corporate capitalism. And it's deeply tied to the reason why we're here at this lab today. Because in that vision of the world, that system needs enforcement. And that enforcement comes from the U.S. military and ultimately from the threat of those weapons that are being designed and developed right over the way. And that's why, we might say, why the hell do we need these things now? There's no evil empire, there's no Russia. They're not really, truly very effective against small enclaves of terrorism, but that's why we need it. We need it to enforce a system on the world that the world does not want. I just came back from Mexico where people are organizing because in a few weeks in Cancun, the World Trade Organization is going to have its ministerial meeting. 4 years ago in Seattle when it met, we stopped it. We blockaded it. And some of us may go to Cancun, but also some of us may take action right here in the San Francisco Bay Area, because there's going to be actions all over the hemisphere around the WTO. Again, that's tied to those nukes. If we want a world in which nuclear weapons and military might enforce a system of tremendous inequality and injustice, all we have to do is sit home and do nothing, because that world is being laid out for us. But if we want a different kind of world, if we want a world where we look around, we say, you know what? Other people around the world are our sisters and brothers. This earth that we live on is a living thing. It's a living being. We're all part of it. We have the ability to work with the earth and create a life of abundance and pleasure and justice and shared real wealth with everybody on the planet. If we want that world, we're going to have to work for it, and we're going to have to stand up and fight for it. And to fight for it doesn't mean we have to be violent. But it does mean that we have to be strong, and we have to be courageous, and we have to be willing to raise our voices and willing to take the risks that it needs to take to bring that world about. But if we do, I mean, to me, again, that's why this is such an incredible moment, because it's like the forces of destruction and creation are so balanced that everything that anybody does makes a huge difference. And every choice that we each make right now is tremendously important. So if we take this time today when we're all here together and where we can actually stand and confront the place where those horrific weapons are designed and developed, where human creativity is taken and warped into the path of destruction, and really reflect on what we each need to do with our lives, and realize that what we each do makes a huge difference right now, almost like never before in human history. We can raise that creative power, and we can take that creative power, and I believe ultimately that the power of creativity, the power of love, the power of transformation is much, much stronger than the strongest weapon that they're making over in that land.
You can bomb the world to pieces, but you can't bomb the world into peace. So true. Our next speaker here brings hope that this movement will be carried on for the next 50 or 100 years, if necessary. He's part of the youth movement that's coming alive and growing. He's out of Santa Barbara, California, and is involved with he's the youth coordinator of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, the NAPFs. This organization is dedicated towards world peace, free from the threat of nuclear weapons. Its guiding principles of the initiative include confidence in youth as community leaders and active citizens, respect for cultural, ethnic, and religious diversity, and it believed in nonviolence and dialogue as a means to resolve conflict. Please, Michael Coffey from Santa Barbara.
Good afternoon, good people. How many people believe in the power of youth? Show my hands. All right. Actually, I need a little bit more than that. That's beautiful. How many people here are either students or alumni or have children within the University of California system? All right, that's a lot. That's a great turnout. For over 60 years now, the University of California has been involved in the development of weapons of mass destruction. A lot of the 180,000 current UC students don't know that. So I go around and I talk with them about it. This is Darwin Bondgren, recent graduate of UC Santa Cruz. We're part of the coalition to demilitarize the University of California. All right? We go from UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz to Davis to Berkeley. We have Tri-Valley Cares, Western States Legal Foundation, Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, student groups, community groups. We're trying to work with faculty and alumni and grow this into really what it needs to be, because we have a critical year ahead of us. A critical year ahead of us. And Darwin will talk about that a little bit more in about a minute. But I wanted to invite you all, personal invitation, each and every one of you. We're going to be on UC Berkeley's campus tomorrow, strategizing, plotting the school year, figuring out the strengths and weaknesses of our movement and really how to move forward and capitalize on this movement, this moment. So just really wanted to, express my gratitude to you all for really giving me that love in the beginning, because I recognize that young people have been involved in every social justice movement that has been successful in this world throughout time, with anti-apartheid, U.S. Civil Rights Movement, White Rose Society in World War II, and that has to be true for this nuclear movement. And that the nuclear issue is not isolated. It touches on racism, it touches on poverty, it touches on militarism issues, and we have to draw that into the fold. So here's Darwin, he's going to talk to you for a minute.
So we have a critical moment coming up here for the anti-nuclear weapons movement. What we have is, in 2005, the contract for the Los Alamos National Laboratory is up, and the UC is going to have to compete to bid it. This is unprecedented. The UC has never had to compete for its privileged position to manage the doomsday machine. The UC has never had to go up against anyone, and they've always claimed it's a public service. In the fall of 2005 is when this contract is up. That's what we're organizing against. We're going to show the laboratories, we're going to show the nuclear weapons complex, we're going to show every single individual in the U.S. federal government that the people and the students and the staff and the faculty are not for nuclear weapons. They do not make our nation safer. I had the opportunity to go to New Mexico recently, and I had the wonderful opportunity to speak with George Pete Nanos, who's the current administrator of that laboratory. He's a former Navy admiral, but he claims to be speaking for the UC when he says that nuclear weapons are important for this nation. And I got up and I told him that no, and the students don't believe that, and the faculty don't. And I told him there's been a 60-year history of resistance to the UC management of the nuclear weapons complex. He replied, "I think it's sad that you think that, son." Really condescending. I don't think it's sad that he thinks that. I don't think much about George Pete Nanos. I think it's unfortunate that he doesn't see the youth rising and he doesn't see our movement rising. Because we are going to shut it down. We are going to stop the nuclear weapons complex.
We have a table in the back. If you want more information, like what time we're starting, what room we're going to be at, that's all like third base right over there. Cool. Thank you, everybody.
Our next speaker here, she's got a lot to say, and she's going to be asking you something, and you all got to give it up. Please, a big hand of applause here for Patricia St. Ange. Órale.
So guess what my job is? The money pitch. So think for a minute. Every time we make a decision about how we're going to spend our money, we say something to the world. So close your eyes for a minute and think about the largest sum of money that you can think about that will help make a statement about the kind of world you want to create. The world we're trying to build is priceless, and there are bills to pay as we move through the process. And so I would invite you to think about the donation that you give to pay for what's happening today on 3 levels. One is it pays for the fees for sound system and all of the things that it takes to put on an event like this. So that's kind of the superficial level. The second level is the place where we're using our dollars as our voice. We're using our dollars to say something about what it is we're trying to do in the world. So you can use your dollars to buy an SUV, and that says something. You can use your dollars to buy an electric car or a hybrid or a bicycle, and that says something else. So think about the dollars that you're going to give today as being one way of articulating your voice for the world you want to make. And then the third level is the level of our own soul work. Each of us is in the world with resources and capacity, and when we come together like this, we are called upon to share those with the world. And so there's something that happens in us when we give, and when we give generously. And so now there are people who are going to walk through the audience with orange buckets. Here's one example. Please think about it on 3 levels: paying the bills, speaking your voice, and healing your own soul.
All right.
Teaching and passing the word of love, happiness, and peace. I'd like to introduce Joanne Macy, a Buddhist teacher and a peace activist.
Standing here, looking at you, feeling the energy. It is so in tune with life that it's hard to believe what's right over there behind those trees. If ever there's a place on this planet that is dedicated to the destruction and maiming of human life, and much more than human life, it is that funded into the gazillions beyond belief. What a place to be. What, as STARHAWK said, what a time to be alive. And those words come to me now. Remember them? I set before you life and death, therefore choose life. Well, those words were put in the mouth of a big daddy God, but they're true nonetheless, and they are enshrined with love and compassion in every spiritual tradition. And that is what each one of us is doing this day. We are choosing life. That is what each of the speakers who's been here before me has been doing all their lives, choosing life. And that's what all these organizations that you're representing, that you've been working for, week in, week out, year in, year out, choosing life. And that's what you're going to do when you walk out of here to surround the lab. Hands around the lab, they are choosing life. We've had enough of death and destruction. But what is going to help us do that? Who is going to help us? Well, we're going to help each other and all those that we see with these two physical eyes of ours. But there are others. I just want to evoke them now. We need them because there's a lot of work to do. There are those we will not see that are totally essential to our being able to get up in the morning and stay up and work for and get out on the street and go to those meetings and reach out to our brothers and sisters. And those are the ones who have gone before. Those are the ancestors. Those are the teachers. Their blood runs in our veins. They have passed this exquisite planet into our hands. They've tended it. There are recent ones whose names have been evoked right here today. Dr. King and Judy Berry and so many others. But they go way back and they are informing you, don't try to do this huge job, which we're going to do together, without the help of your ancestors. Thank them every day. So let's take a moment of silence to just thank them. Now, the ancestors aren't the only ones that are going to give us an essential helping hand, who are going to be right at our side, though they're not visible to the physical eyes. And those are the beings of the future, the generations who will come after us, who are counting on us to do what has to be done so there'll be breathable air and drinkable water in a place that is not destroyed for them. Each one of us is here because of our love for the future beings. One of my teachers, Sister Rosalie Bertel, radiologist, great expert witness on many a trial of anti-nuclear activists, she said to me, every creature who will ever live, every being who will ever live on Earth is here now. Where? In our ovaries and in our gonads and in our DNA. We bear the future within us. We fight because of that. We walk because of that. We sing because of that. Please know that they're on your side and that they will give you energy when you're tired. And they will give you song for your lips when your heart is sad. And when you get the signal in a few minutes, and when you go through the gate and you turn to toward that palace of death to surround it, feel them with you, the beings of the future.
There's a couple more speakers, but before that, the march is going to begin shortly. You need to go to the logistic booth there and get a map to know exactly the routes. And at 4 o'clock, BART is going to start running their shuttles from here, this parking lot, And also there'll be a bus from Veterans for Peace who are going to be running buses to Bar. I'd like to say also, our next speaker here coming up, he is the president for the national president of Veterans for Peace.
It takes several hours.
A nonprofit educational and humanitarian organization dedicated to the abolishment of war. Please give it up for David Klein.
Wow.